The best word for what's happening in America right now is radicalization. That's what it is. That's what this hyped up right-wing media machine is doing. That's why it feels harder to talk about politics with other people, harder to speak a common language about right and wrong, harder to meet in the proverbial middle, because some news junkies, some relatives, some neighbors are being radicalized. When Trump lifers are calling for troops in the streets because they lost an election, that's radicalization. When they start speculating about breaking off and creating their own country, that is radicalization. All of this election denialism talk is radical, and yet it is infesting the air everywhere in the pro-Trump media. When a former Houston police captain points a gun at an ordinary air conditioner repairman because he believes the repairman is the mastermind behind a voter fraud scandal, that is evidence of radicalization having real-life consequences. These conspiracy theories spreading all around, millions of Americans clinging to conspiracy theories, this is all evidence of radicalization.
Well, it's not going to happen. That's going nowhere, and I understand the president is casting about, trying to find some way to have a different result than the one that was delivered by the American people. But it's really sad in a lot of respects and embarrassing, because the president could right now be writing the last chapter of this administration with a victory lap with regards to the vaccine. After all, he pushed aggressively to get the vaccine developed and distributed. That's happening on a quick time frame. He could be going out championing this extraordinary success, and instead, he's leaving Washington with a whole series of conspiracy theories and things that are so nutty and loopy that people are shaking their head wondering what in the world has gotten into this man. And I think that's unfortunate, because he has more accomplishments than this last chapter suggests he's going to be known for.
Got some breaking news for you. The report shows one of the most interesting findings. It shows how the ballots in question, Maria, dwarf the victory margins that Biden has allegedly in these states. But the one state I didn't have numbers for was Michigan. That now I can tell you that almost 400,000 ballots in Michigan are in question, and that's more than twice the victory margin. The victory margin was only 10,000 or 12,000 in places like Arizona and Georgia, and the ballots, the potentially illegal ballots, were way more times that. So,
infesting the airwaves for 3 hours a day with, false information? Brian Stelter. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the tell. They're in meltdown. You know why they're in meltdown? Because the oligarchs have suppressed this, the mainstream media suppressed it, and yes, YouTube, officially on the 8th, it was a safe harbor, and on the 14th, the Electoral College met, and that's the official party line, just like the Warren Commission. And the numbers are now at 50%. They're getting close to 50%. And this is not a policy difference. This is not, oh, well, we like Obamacare, we don't like it. No. This is about legality. This is about legitimacy. This is about calling him a usurper. Okay? This is a wound that will not go away until the Democratic Party gets him back of an effort to find out exactly what went on. And we're going to be relentless. We're not going to stop on this. And this show is metastasizing because of that. Not because of us, because of you. You're putting this, and by the way, a third of our audience is Democrats. A lot of Bernie people that got screwed 2 times in a row, but that's okay. Just ask for your money back from Bernie. He's a pie. He's a disgrace. Wouldn't have been in this situation if he had stood firm, a year ago or 4 years ago or 5 years ago. A wimp. That's not Donald Trump. And don't all this stuff in the thing. Oh, Donald Trump ain't backing down. Donald Trump's not going to concede, and Donald Trump's not going to be anywhere except up on the stage giving his inaugural address on the 20th at high noon after he's put his hand on the family Bible. Also, by the way, we got to reach out. My wingman Greg Vance. We got to make sure we reach out to Senator Mitten's staff and just show them sad but loopy. You're Mr. Bain Capital. He's supposed to be mathematics. Although his reputation at Bain Capital, remember, he never wanted to pull the trigger or anything. He'd get all antsy and be jiggying around. Little guy on top of a wedding cake. By the way, and just to make sure we fully disclose this, didn't Donald J. Trump endorse him? Just wanted the crack political team over the White House. Just put another one down there. When Mitch McConnell's calling you for favors, President being a good guy is always there. He endorsed Mittens. Talk about a guy with no spine. Think about the disaster he would have been as president. As bad as Obama was, and it was awful, right, from a policy perspective. Mittens would have been a total and complete disaster, Jack. By the way, we got to get to our guy Peter Navarro. Now has the Michigan thing. He's been all over. Peter, I know you got to get in and out, but Peter, after we had you on the show the other day, just saying, this exploded. Your report is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. The president's tweeting it out. The question is, how did you miss Michigan? You guys, I thought you guys at Harvard over there at the PhD side, the business school side on our side of the Charles River were much more thorough. How did you miss? How did the Art and Sciences Department miss Michigan?
You're killing me, Bannon. You're killing me. You're killing me, dude. No, what do you say, man? You got to have the receipts, right? You got to have the receipts. Didn't want to pull a Sean Spicer, So I got the receipts now. Okay, so let me give it to your audience straight up and fresh, okay? We start with the current, quote, victory margin, the alleged victory margin of Biden. Right now it's at 154,000 ballots. My top line number at this point for possibly illegal ballots is 379,000, okay? So that's more than twice the victory margin. Now, it breaks down. You got dead voters. You've got inexplicable vote switching and vote surges. That's about 195,000. And then you've got 174,384 lacking voter ID check. Now, let me give you some more receipts here, Steve. If you look at the timestamp data from the New York Times on November 4th, Trump had taken a substantial lead over Biden within a 9-hour period, but within just 5 seconds, at around 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Biden's vote total skyrocketed by 141,258 votes, right, in Michigan, over 30 times the expected vote count, right? And within that same time frame, you know how many Trump got? 5,968, and we had another dump at 3:50 a.m. Eastern Time on November 4th, where Biden got 54,497 ballots, and Trump got 4,718. So what we did was we went in and got the receipts. We looked at the data. There's like 9,500 voters confirmed dead through the Social Security Death Index. You got another 2,000 voters in Michigan that look to be over 100 years old, and they're not listed as living centenarians in the state of Michigan. And then you've got all these voter ID check problems. So the bottom line here, let's keep the big picture, Steve. Coordinated strategy by the Democrat Party to stuff the ballot box with absentee and mail-in ballots, often bending the law or breaking the law to do so, and using the 6 dimensions of election irregularities I described in that report, which include, of course, voter fraud, just straight out voter fraud, but you got the ballot mishandling, you got the due process files, you've got the voting machine irregularities, you got the violations of the Equal Protection Clause. Hey, Steve, let me tell you this. This was not tinfoil hat conspiracy stuff. This was just brass knuckles politics. Lee Atwater, John Podesta style brass knuckle politics. And these people hate Trump so much that they hate Trump more than they love the country. They were willing to bend and so at times break the law to get all this done. I mean, it's just that consent decree in Georgia. That's breaking the law. The stuff the Secretary of State did in Pennsylvania, that's breaking the law. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Let me answer. So, hang on, because this is the analytic.
Yeah.
The analytics you show is overwhelming. But we're burning daylight here. We got the Ep600.
It's overwhelming.
How are you engaged? Everybody's talking about this. The president's tweeting it out. It's on fire on the internet. But what are you doing to engage at the state legislature level? What are you doing to actually make sure that this thing has some purpose and meaning and has an impact?
Well, I'm personally starting to reach out to state legislators around the 6 battleground states. I know that the Giuliani team is doing the same. I believe the president is making the appropriate phone calls. I mean, look, 5 out of the 6 battleground states, Steve,
controlled by both chambers, by Republicans, 2 states, Republican governors. I mean, look, if we know anything at this point, it's that Donald J. Trump transformed the Republican Party into the party of the working class, and there's just a lot of traditional Republicans who don't want to get on the Trump train. So I can't explain what's going on in these state legislatures other than to say that they don't embrace economic nationalism, and they, you know, they've turned their back on a president. But look, what they've done is turn their back on their own constituents. They've turned their back on this country. They've turned this back on the institution of democracy, Steve. We cannot have a democracy in where we don't have free and fair elections. And what's supposed to be, it's billed as the greatest democracy in world history. It's rubbish at this point, at this stance. That's rubbish.
Dr. Navarro, last question. You're a PhD from Harvard. You know, you had to defend your thesis there. You had to go through all the coursework. It's very tough in the economics department to do that, to get a PhD. That's why they don't hand out a lot. Do you believe that you have enough evidence that you've unearthed in your analysis to go into court or to go before the state legislatures and with Democrats and the media tearing it apart to carry the day?
There's no question about it. I mean, most of these court cases are not being rejected on the evidence. They're using process, basically, including the Supreme Court. I mean, that Texas case was a beautiful case. You had Thomas ready to go on that. You had others, but I think Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, you know, the guys, the traditional Republicans from the white shoe firms, and of course Roberts, they weren't going with it. I mean, look, Steve, the institutions of this country are letting this country down, whether it's the anti-Trump mainstream media, whether it's our state legislatures, whether it's people in the Republican Party, whether it's certainly these Democrats who are playing this brass knuckles, ends justify the means, bend and break the law, and the courts themselves.
Has Senator...
We need to stand up out here and get this stuff done before we have an illegal and illegitimate president inaugurated on January 21st.
No, it's a wound that won't heal. Last question is Senator Mittens Romney. Has Mittens staff has Mittens staff has Mittens reached out to you for his staff reached out to you for a briefing?
No, look, Mitt doesn't want to hear this. Mitt says, "See no evil, speak no evil, don't hear the truth." Mitt, I don't know. Mitt's still whining about the fact that he lost that 2012 election, and make no mistake about it, Steve. I was out stumping for him out in Ohio with my Death by China film, and you know we had a chance at that point to have a candidate run on behalf of the workers and against China, and Mitt. Yeah, he was like running to the goal line, and like he spiked the ball on the 5-yard line, and and he's been whining ever since.
Dr. Navarro, real quick.
The only thing good about him is his haircut.
What's your? We have 15 seconds. What's your Twitter handle?
Real P Navarro. Get updates on the report, because we're going to be adding information as it comes out in real time, including this Michigan stuff.
Perfect. We got to bounce. Thank you for joining us. Back in a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. You're in the War Room. Now going to go live to Palm Beach to Ben Bergquam of Real America's Voice. Ben, walk us through where you are today and what are you reporting?
Hey, Steve. It's timely that I'm on with you. We're actually here at the Student Action Summit with Turning Point USA. Have thousands of young people behind me in the auditorium. There's thousands more that haven't been able to get in because of the China virus and the county down here locking things down. But thankfully, they've still been able to have the event. Major speakers from across the country. What we're hearing right now, they're talking about the CCP and China's influence on America, in particular in regards to the Democrats, how they've been corrupted, and heavy discussions about the tyranny and the steal of the election. So it's, you've got young people all over the country, and I've asked every single one of them. None of them believe the election results were legitimate.
Real quickly, what is their number one, as they've seen this information, what is their number one complaint about the election? When they look at the voter fraud or the election fraud, what did the young people single as a thing that sticks in their craw?
Well, it's more broadly just that they believe President Trump was cheated, that President Trump won, that he's been cheated, and they believe that he should do whatever it takes to get the victory. And they're sick of Republicans that aren't going to stand up and fight. You can hear that, senators that aren't willing to come out and say that they're going to join with the House to raise the question, to object to the nomination. That's really the bottom line. They believe it was fraud on a massive scale, and none of them, and I've asked hundreds of kids out here and young people and adults, not a single one of them trust the results of the election.
Ben, you're reporting, you're Real America's Voice. You're going to be covering this today. Give us an update on what you're going to be doing after the war and pandemic's over.
Say that one more time.
Yeah. How are you going to be going live? What are you doing as reporting down there today? You're going to be doing live broadcasts from there, or what are you guys at Real America's Voice going to be doing?
Yep. We'll be reporting on all the shows. I'll be on Miranda Khan's News On in just a minute. We'll be on America's Voice Live, and then breaking in with special guest speakers throughout the day on different shows as well. So we'll be here all day, half the day tomorrow. We've been here all weekend.
Perfect.
The real news.
We're going to have Ben on at 5 o'clock too. Ben Bergquam from Palm Beach, the Student Action Summit with Turning Point USA. Okay, let's go now to, in the background, people, it's been Bill Barr's having a press conference. This is why I recommended, and I recommended directly to the President of the United States, Bill Barr should be fired. And don't let him write a nice letter and have 4 or 5 days. He's only going to do more damage. Absolutely outrage. The reason he's sitting up there saying he doesn't want a special prosecutor for the Hunter Biden CCP. It's not Hunter Biden, the Biden family compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. The reason he doesn't want a special prosecutor, he doesn't think one's necessary, he's going to be wrapped up in the investigation. One of the key things in the investigation is why is Chris Wray at the FBI and why is Barr at the head of the Justice Department, the Attorney General of the United States. They had the hard drive from hell. They've had the hard drive from hell since the 9th of December of 2019, over a year ago. And trust me, folks, it's just not the hard drive. This stuff in the hard drive is so blatant. Clearly, FBI counterintelligence and others knew what was going on. They may not have had the receipts. Only Jack Maxey got the receipts because he got the hard drive from hell. He pulled the receipts out and let the nation see it. Okay? This is why 56% of the American people think that Joe Biden took money from the Chinese. I think, and there's a new Rasmussen poll out that shows it's in the high 50s. So I'd like to have the guy's response. This press conference at Barr is outrageous. This is why he should have been fired and walked out of the building Sunday night a week ago.
Steve, if the media had done their job, the percentage of Americans who thought that the Bidens took money from the Communist Chinese would be over 90%. And let's remember, we have that recording of Hunter Biden in 2018 talking about working for the head of Chinese intelligence and how all his people are disappeared and et cetera, et cetera. Remember, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal were calling up his father with knowledge about the fact that he was being investigated by the Southern District.
Can I get Denver? Can I get the guys at Denver, Real America's Voice, to put up the how do you pronounce her last name? Fasaki?
Saki.
Okay, put her up. She had an interview over the weekend. I want to as soon as that's ready to play, just roll it. Raheem, thoughts on this whole Barr fiasco?
I think you're absolutely right. We said he had to leave immediately. Instead, we've now got this lame duck Barr, still able to give press conferences, still able to, use the office of the Attorney General to pour cold water over this stuff. And it didn't escape my attention, by the way, that what Mitt Romney said.
Let's go and play her thing.
Okay, fine. Let's roll it.
Because there is concern among Republicans as to whether or not President Biden is going to stop the investigation of his son. So a couple of specifics here. Does he promise to let David Weiss, who is the U.S. attorney in Delaware, who is currently conducting the investigation of Hunter Biden, does he promise to allow him to finish the job? And what does he think of President Trump possibly appointing a special counsel to conduct an independent investigation of Hunter Biden?
Well, let me be crystal clear, Chris, and I appreciate you asking this question. He will not be discussing an investigation of his son with any attorney general candidates. He will not be discussing it with anyone he is considering for the role, and he will not be discussing it with a future attorney general. It will be up to the purview of a future attorney general in his administration to determine how to handle any investigation.
That's actually not true. You've got a U.S. attorney. You've got a U.S. attorney. By the way, this is the third rail for them. They don't want to touch it. They understand how radioactive this is. You're compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. And by, it's, if Thingamajig's got an investigation going on, what the new attorney general is going to come in and make a decision to shut it down? Is that what she's implying? That they have the option to do that? That's why you need a special prosecutor, Mr. Raheem Kassam.
But buried lead in that clip is the kid gloves that Wallace treats her with. No pushback, no probing questions. No, hey, but what about this? Hey, let's run the clip. Hey, what about this evidence? You don't think that this is urgent in the interest of national security right now? None of that. That's saved, obviously, for whenever he has people on the right on. And I just wanted to make mention of the fact that what Mitt Romney said yesterday, I think it was CNN State of the Union, right? What he said yesterday was turned into the Wall Street Journal's editorial board op-ed this morning, almost word for word, echoing Mitt Romney from yes. Somebody was just transcribing the Mitt Romney interview. By the way, the same Wall Street Journal that took $6.5 million from the Chinese Communist Party to slip little bits of China Daily in its newspaper. This is what we're up against. This is the broader, everybody on this show who's been on the show this morning, John Eastman, Sean Parnell, Congressman Paul Gosar, all of them are absolute fighters. But if you take a step back and look at the entirety of the structure of the enemy that is out there right now, people need to understand this isn't just about the steel. This is about the Chinese Communist Party. This is about influence. This is about the mainstream media. This is the whole works of it right here. And look at what's happening. You got Mitch McConnell putting $600 in people's hands. Tanking the market right now this morning in real time, $600 in people's hands, which is pittance. It's disgusting to treat people that way. And this is the Republican Party that tells everyone, hey, you've got to go out and vote in Georgia for $600?
Just remember the this bridge. Remember, the pandemic triggered an economic crisis. Part of that was drop of aggregate demand. The other one was the supply chains. This drop in aggregate demand. People have got to understand. That's another $1 trillion. It's $900 billion because they want the optics being. It's another $1 trillion. I realize you got to get more money to people, but there's got to be an organized approach to a solution. Continue to add to that now with $28 trillion in the debt. It's just not.
There is $80 billion going to colleges and universities out of this $900 billion that was announced.
Oh no, this thing's got so much pork in it. It's unbelievable.
It's extraordinary. You could give everyone double. You could give the poorest people in this country double, the working people of this country double, if you didn't want to give Harvard a bit of cash with it. If you didn't want to give, no offense, the Ivy League a bit of cash with it, right?
So where are we standing in this fight? Where's the base right now, and where is this fight? Are people in the mumble tank, or they understand we got to fight here? And the fight, that's what. Listen, I understand people are frustrated. And here's what it is. And take this the right way. I say it in the spirit of partnership. Okay, I understand people's frustration, but let me tell you what's not going to happen. A fairy godmother is not going to come in here at the Supreme Court. Or a fairy godmother with martial law is not going to come in here and wave a wand and it's all going to be better. That is fantasy. We don't deal in fantasy here. We deal in reality, and we deal in the doable, actionable items. We've got this. Remember, in Arizona, in Georgia, those are Republican legislatures with Republican governors. In Michigan, you got a Republican legislature. In Wisconsin, of which they're making huge progress on these ICs, the indefinitely confined, Bernie Kerik, Boris Epshteyn, the entire team of the Trump campaign has a massive program underway to show you that there's 50,000 to 100,000 minimum illegal votes there. This, as Sean Parnell told you in Pennsylvania, this is basically gutless Republicans. And if you can't turn around gutless Republicans, you're not going to be able to convince the rest of the country. Right now, if we just dial down the crazy talk, the numbers are going in our direction. It's got support. 50% of the American people think it's illegal. What don't you like about that? You start talking crazy, all of a sudden the president's number is going to drop, and those numbers are going to drop, and then you get a problem, and you're going to bleed out support. I realize that you're not. I realize that the. By the way, somebody jump in here, take over for a second. I got somebody calling. I got to take
it. All right. I want to in the next segment as well. We're going to get to what's going on with the latest restrictions in the United Kingdom. Obviously, you'll have heard there's a new tier 4, effectively house arrest, which is going on in the United Kingdom. Talking about that being the new strain, and what they're saying is, hey, the new strain is more contagious. The new strain might spread easier. They've got a 1.3, 1.4 R number rate in London, and you see these epic images of people fleeing London that you didn't see, since the Blitz. Right? And we'll talk about that in the next segment as well. We've got about 30 seconds left here. I want to implore everybody here in the live stream on this show, wherever you're watching this from, make sure you are subscribed. Subscribe on YouTube. Especially subscribe on Rumble, on Parler. Make sure that you are tuned in here because we are not going anywhere. And this is ramping up every second. Be right back. More Jack Maxey, Dr. Jan, Michael Walsh, Greg Mann, Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam after this break.
Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room. Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
All right, welcome back to the War Room. Steve's still on his secret call, so you're stuck with me in the meantime. I'm just going to run you through some of the quick statistics on this new tier 4 effective house arrest that's taking place in London and the home counties and Wales with this new virus mutation right now. But just before we do that, I want to throw it over to Greg Manns just to add some context to my little rant about the $600, the pittance that is being thrown at you. Greg?
Yeah, Raheem, I think Senator Hawley might be listening to the show. He just tweeted out, the negotiators are saying they could only find enough money for $600 per person for relief checks for working people. But mark my words, there will be hundreds of billions spent on special interests, banks, and government.
Of course there will. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the administration go to Nancy Pelosi with a double the amount offer before the election? And Pelosi basically said, we're going to let people suffer so that they want to more inclined to vote for Democrats who they know throw more money around. That's what happened. Mm-hmm. Using a pandemic to campaign an election.
In the live stream pointed out that $600 is about 26 ounces of silver. So the American people, good for you to know that you were sold out for less money than even the Son of God. Literally.
That's a good point. All right, real quick, before we bring in Dr. Jan on this, I want to make mention of what we know about the latest situation in the United Kingdom at the moment, as other countries, including many European countries and indeed Canada, locking down its borders for travelers from the United Kingdom. The death rate is back at May levels in the United Kingdom. It's the highest rate of infections ever was yesterday, 36,000 people testing positive. They're talking about 17 sets of changes or mutations to the virus, first tracked in September back in Kent. That's the Garden of England, for those of you that don't know, but it's much better than the Garden State of New Jersey, by the way. All right, so this is Tier 4, which is effectively house arrest. You're not supposed to leave your home by law. 16.4 million people in England affected by this. You're allowed to have what's kind of known as this support bubble, which is a few people that you're allowed to interact with, keep around you for visits and so on and so forth. Pubs, restaurants, shops, gyms, hairdressers, nail bars, basically everything closed. There's 20.7 million people living under Tier 3 restrictions. That's in the Midlands and the northeast of England. Basically, don't meet indoors. No more than 6 people to meet outside. Gyms, however, do remain open. Tier 2, 17 million people. That means you can meet with 2 other households. That's most of East Anglia, the southwest of England, and some of the northwest of England. And then about 900,000 people under Tier 1, which means most things are basically open, and you can live basically a normal, though not entirely a normal life. That's 900,000 people. hospitals, mainly in places like Cornwall. So you see what the lives of my fellow countrymen are being turned into here, as the R number is at about 1.4, 1.3 in the east of England, in London, in the southeast. They say this mutation doesn't make people sicker, but they are concerned that it will lead to a higher spread. They're saying it may be caused by the herd immunity strategy that was pursued by the British government, or that it developed in more chronically ill patients. The same strain was found in July in Australia, in July in the United States, and in April in Brazil. Over to you, Jack Maxey and Dr. Jan.
Well, also, you have to remember that this is in Holland now. The German chief epidemiologist came out today, said it's likely in Germany. We know that it's the main strain, I think, in South Africa. So this is really nothing different than what we've seen with every other respiratory virus. They will mutate over time. This virus will mutate. And what I find very strange is this panic that people are talking about, that this is so much more infectious and we've got to lock down everything. There's no proof of this yet. This is just politicians talking off the cuff about something they read in the Mirror or the Sun or something like that. There is no proof that this is more deadly, and there is no proof that it is more communicable. Yet, this is just still very early on. I think the one thing that people might be interested to understand is whether or not this means that the vaccines will be available for this this new strain. I do think that it probably will, but again, look, they're talking about this being like the annual flu vaccine. We know that's only 60% effective in the people who need it. So we're bringing in Dr. Jan, who is our Hong Kong specialist in viruses. And Dr. Jan, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this discussion of this new mutation of the virus, what you think it means for the world, and whether or not you think it is something that's naturally occurring with viruses and as they mutate, or maybe there may be something more nefarious. Love to hear your thoughts.
Morning, Jack. So what I want to talk about the mutant virus, as many people ask me these days, is this is inevitable because of the circulation of the virus and because of the character of the virus itself. It has to be mutant. I mean, this is a character, but the thing is whether it will increase the modality or whether it will increase the infectivity, it's up to the virus before it comes out of the lab. I mean, this virus is already enhanced to target human and already enhanced in both in activity and also mortality after the animal experiment in the lab under CCP. So now you can say that although there are a lot of mutants, but mortality seems not increase like people expect, because this is kind of a fixed parameter. And the other one, infectivity, because of the big circulation and the population, it definitely increases, which means it is a very big damage for human, because everyone don't want to get infected. And also this will lead to panic, as Jack mentioned. So there are a lot of policy come out and damage to the countries, to the government.
Dr. Jan, when you consider that this new strain of the virus is out there, and there's obviously a little bit of panic led by the politicians, unfortunately, doesn't this seem to make the case for preventative treatment, i.e. hydroxychloroquine, early use with zinc and azithromycin? And also now we've had some fantastic evidence from studies on the use of ivermectin as a prophylaxis, where we saw almost no infection in the people taking the ivermectin, and what we would expect in the control group who weren't taking it. This was all healthcare workers. Doesn't this situation make it even more clear that those drugs need to be made available to the people of the world?
Of course, I started to talk about it from end of February, and more other doctors talk about around the world, but the voice are suppressed. So these are the things we already know, that hydroxychloroquine, very safe and very useful as prevention and also early treatment. And also ivermectin and other drugs you can study and you can see in which case it can be used better. So there are many choices, but the government listen to those top experts, and top experts manipulated by Chinese Communist Party, WHO, or the corrupted organizations. They don't allow this policy to be heard by the real people, real government administration, or they forbid people to understand this. Even doctors cannot use it because no guidance are admitted. So these are the big problem. Actually, we have many ways to solve it, but they don't do it.
Dr. Yan, I thought it was very interesting that the World Health Organization came out last week and essentially said that in the future, banning travel will be the key to stopping pandemics, right? They've come out and said this, and they said that maybe what should happen so that countries will cooperate, the rest of the world should compensate those countries who are responsible and shut down early. Now, we know that China was irresponsible. Ironically, China has been getting compensated across the board since they started this, with holding the PPEs hostage, holding the medicine hostage. And you were talking about disinformation. I think one of the key things, and I said this back in the spring, I think that we're going to show this virus is going to show how absolutely rotten hard science is in central China and motivated by politics. You got to remember, they warned against tamoxifen. They warned against the use of any corticosteroids. They warned against the use of hydroxychloroquine. And what was interesting, they went to some countries and promoted these drugs, and other countries, they didn't promote it. We have the health minister of Costa Rica saying that it was the Chinese scientists who gave them the use of hydroxychloroquine, but you don't hear that in, say, Brazil or other places. It's the level of propaganda through this year has been frightening, and I do see the CCP at the core of it.
Exactly. So this is ways they manipulate the government and manipulate their policies. So it makes that if China government throws a nuclear bomb to, for example, UK, how much is the damage it will be? But now, how much damage caused in UK after the waves this kind of pandemic? And people even cannot realize, because once a bomb, they say it's a war. But these are the virus. People start argue, but still cannot believe this is a biowarfare. And China government gave the things to the friend, and once they are not friends, they can spread more virus. This is very easy. Control or not control.
Well, and also what I think I found very frightening was immediately the West adopted China's proposal, i.e., weld people in their apartments. Well, not quite the Chinese version, but you get my point. The idea that we go to this total shutdown, and now when you look at Europe, the way this virus is transmitted, and you look at the comparison between places that didn't shut down and those that did, when you look at the third world where a shutdown was absolutely impossible versus, say, the numbers in London, they're really no different. So there is, and I said this early on, there is an insidious nature to these respiratory viruses, and they're very difficult to control. And I'm reminded by Dr. I'm forgetting the virologist from Hong Kong University who you worked with, Dr. Lang, I believe it was.
Gabriel Liang.
Gabriel Lang. He said, I think in the second week, he said the reality is 40 to 60% of the population of planet Earth will be infected with this virus in the next year and a half. It sounds like he made a perfect prediction. What do you think?
Yes, as from the beginning, already said this kind of human-to-human transmission and the high infection rate will lead to an outbreak if not control it on time. And also the thing is, this immunity cannot last long or effective enough for you to think about its protection. And Gabriel Liang's prediction is based on the mass model. That may not be accurate, but not only him, many other statisticians have did the analysis, and they all told you that will lead to crazy result. And in Fox News in July, I also told people, now it was 1 in 600 at that time infected. Later, it will be 1 in 60. And after that, if the infectious rate still increase like now, 1 in 10, and finally, maybe no one can get avoided. So that is a very serious situation.
For example, Dr. Yan,
that's why we don't have much time.
Dr. Redfield said about a month and a half ago that the likelihood is that we have 10 times the number of infected that have actually been tested positive, right? So currently at 16 million, that would imply that maybe 100 to 160 million Americans have already had the virus. It seems to me that Dr. Ling is coming true. Now, Dr. Yan, we're going to have to take a break here, but can you give us your Twitter handle and just run it out? We got everybody. I'm retweeting your stuff. I want people to follow you. You really have had a good handle on this.
Oh, yes, my Twitter is Dr. Li Meng Yan. I have almost 70,000 followers.
All right, we'll be back. More War and Pandemic. Stephen K. Bannon returns in just a moment. Make sure, remember, you are subscribed, especially on Rumble. We'll be back in just a second.
With Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room. Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
As you said, I've already commented on fraud. Let me just say that, there are fraud in unfortunately, in most elections. I think we're too tolerant of it, and I'm sure there was fraud in this election. But I was commenting on the extent to which we had looked at suggestions or allegations of systemic or broad-based fraud that would affect the outcome of the election, and I already spoke to that, and I stand by that statement.
But about the idea of appointing a special counsel, would you answer a question about whether you believe there's enough there, even with what you've already said? Do you believe there's enough evidence to warrant a special counsel to investigate that, perhaps Sidney Powell or someone else?
Well, if I thought a special counsel at this stage was the right tool and was appropriate, I would name one, but I haven't, and I'm not going to. Yes, Sadie.
Hi there. Question. The first, you talked a lot.
You're not going to because you got fired, right? I don't know what you having press conferences. This is the problem. He should have been walked out. He should have been walked out that night. The president of the United States is too caring and too nice an individual. You need fighters. You need fighters. You need fighters. You need fighters. And you need people that are not just going to hold the line, but advance the program. We're burning daylight here. And for all this talk that's going around, it's very simple. Number one, if reason Barr wasn't special counsel on the Biden situation, he's going to be wrapped up in that. The question is very simple. What did you know, and when did you know it? Ray worked the hard drive from hell got delivered to the FBI on the 9th of December, the year of our Lord, 2019. Jack Maxey, Yale graduate, right? Jack Maxey in one afternoon had the receipts. I mean, and Jack's no computer expert. He's grinding through this thing and saying, look at this, and look at Jack. Go back and look at Jack Maxey's Twitter feed, or look at War and Pandemic's Twitter feed. Oops, can't. Dorsey took it down. The reason he took it down is not Dr. Fauci on a figure speech. Trust me, it's because Jack Maxey was putting up the receipts. Barr's going to be rolled up in this, and Ray's going to be rolled up in this. This is why Ray should have been fired. This changed the course of American history. Bernie Sanders would have been the nominee, and there'd been no impeachment trial. The impeachment would have gone away. As much as people say Trump's crazy, he actually was right. It was a perfect call. When you look at the hard drive from hell, he was trying to give the young guy over in the Ukraine a heads up. These are bad hombres. This is absurd. Jack Maxey.
Well, what's interesting to me about Barr, it goes back to what Dr. Eastman said in the very first segment, right? Barr's looking for a job at a law firm after this. He can't get hired if he looks like he's on the side of the president. And then let's also remember, there's a lot of law firms who are going to be tied up in this thing, too. Hunter Biden was on the payroll of Boies Schiller Flexner while he was committing these crimes, right? So this is a protection racket. And I think one thing that the American people can understand after the last 20 years, it didn't matter if it was the collapse in 2001, the collapse in 2007, 2008, none of this behavior could have occurred without the hand-holding of lawyers at top firms in the United States. And have you noticed, in my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen a top lawyer at a top firm in the United States prosecuted for anything.
This is overwhelming evidence to Bill Barr. I think we got to get Rudy and Peter Navarro and the team Bernie Carrick and go. There's overwhelming evidence in any one of three verticals. The third vertical, Dominion, I don't think enough investigation has been done because it's just too complicated. So I'll leave that one off to the side. That's kind of what I've been saying is the free option, right, in finance terms. But the other two, the vertical of voter fraud and election fraud, and of the no chain of title of the ballots, forget the constitutional issues. There's not evidence. There's overwhelming evidence. Overwhelming evidence. And this is and on Hunter Biden, there's overwhelming evidence. The reason they don't want a special prosecutor, they're all going to get rolled up in it. Why? They've known about this for a long time, or should have known about it, right? The apparatus has known what Hunter Biden and James Biden have been doing. They understand that the pivot to Asia was controlled by Joe Biden, that he went over there all the time. Remember, he's the one bragging, I've had 25 hours of private conversations with Xi, more than anybody in the world. Every time he's over, there's an entourage. The brother, Hunter, all this, they got joint ventures all over the place. Just look at Jack Maxey's Twitter feed. We're going to do a more systematic thing to do it. There is going to be a special prosecutor named. Barr's got to understand, it's not his call. The President of the United States is the chief magistrate, and he's going to name special prosecutors on election fraud, on the voter fraud whole situation, and he's going to name a separate one on the Hunter Biden of it all. Mr. Raheem Kassam.
Today, please.
To do it today.
Today.
Has to do it today.
Today.
Got to be today. The President of the United States is not going to back down an inch, but now it's time to move the chains. Moving the chains, name the special prosecutors. I think you just tweeted out something. Let me just say, look, there's nothing in the world we want more than Senator Perdue and Loeffler to win. I don't know Loeffler. I know Perdue. He's a good man. However, I'm just being practical. Here's the 3 steps you have to do. Number 1, you have to call for a special session in Georgia today. Okay? Number 2, you have to say on January 6th, we're going to stand with Tommy Tuberville. Right? We're going to stand for a full vetting of this in the House and the Senate for the 2 hours each that the Constitution lays it out. And number 3, you have to back the president's play today for the American people on a special prosecutor on this election fraud and a separate special prosecutor on the Joe Biden being compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. If you do those three things, guess what? You're going to be a United States Senator. Right? You're going to be United, no doubt about it. If you don't do those 3 things, Karl Rove can burn all the donors' money he wants down in Georgia. And they had an article today in Politico, how they're overwhelming with TV spots. It's not going to matter because Stacey Abrams is going to be out there. Yes, sir.
Look, the $600 is a slap in the face for the ordinary American. Mr. President, step up and give the American public the present they need this Christmas. A special prosecutor.
Okay, brilliant. National polls today?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be talking about this Bill Barr stuff. Had a great article from Thomas Farnan over the weekend on Bill Barr, so we'll be going through that as well. And by the way, ProPublica and the New York Times leaked documents show how China's army of paid internet trolls helped censor the coronavirus.
We're going to get back.
We're already a year ahead of that.
We're going to get to tomorrow's news, or the future year's news today. Okay. 5 o'clock, Jack Maxey.
Hard drive from hell updates on @JackMaxey1. We're showing the receipts.
What's the half-life of that Twitter account? No, what's the half-life of Jack Maxey's Twitter
I am
account?
being very careful. I'm going over every number I'm taking out.
The posse's back together. Okay, 5 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to be lighting it up again, then tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Keep the faith. Keep in the live chat. Keep a hashtag we're in pandemic all day. Fight is on, game on across this nation. Not backing down, not giving up. We're going to close the victory here.